conversations about nervous system safety, peptides, and cellular communication, prayer, trust, and what it means to live aligned with design. No hype, no pressure, just curiosity, relationship, and truth. Welcome to Prayer N Peptides. Comment the word of the episode, alignment. It helps the channel and it helps enter you to win. And we genuinely love conversations here. Before we really begin today, let's start somewhere simple. Not with a big idea, not with a teaching, just awareness. Wherever you are right now, take one slow, deep breath. Not because breathing fixes anything, but because it reminds us that we're here in our bodies in this moment.
That felt good, didn't it? So this isn't a space for having all the answers. It's a space for better questions. Questions about how we live and about how we relate to our Creator and about how we care for the bodies that we are given.
Many of us were taught quietly that the body is something to manage or push through, while faith happens somewhere else. But that separation eventually breaks us down. We love God, but we feel disconnected from ourselves. We pray, but live tired, anxious, or numb. So today isn't about fixing anything. It's about asking a foundational question. What if how we relate to our bodies is deeply connected to how we experience God? When did you personally start feeling the split between faith and body?
I'd like to answer this question because for those of you that know, I call myself a medical mystery overachiever. We're going to talk about all of our stories here over the next couple of weeks anyway, but I really felt abandoned and in a very dark place when I was my sickest. I mean, really dark, like end it all. I don't know why people are caring for me. I'm not adding any value. I mean, when 2020 hit, God was like, okay, you're going to take a nap. And I slept for a year. Literally, I did not do anything. I was so sick. I moved from the bed to the couch. We had black mold in our house. So he was here fixing all of that. I was at my parents'. Like it was insane. And 2020 hit and the world shut down. So it was a great year for that to happen, for me not to have anything to do. But it was also very, very frustrating. And I didn't understand why during that season. I knew God gave me this for a reason. Knew this torch. He gave me this torch for a reason. And it's because I get to now have the conversations of hope from being in that place. Chronic illness is a beast of its own and just so ridiculous. I started when I was 27. I had a pulmonary embolism, ended up with 18 co-infections, all kinds of Lyme disease, then triggered my lupus and a blood disorder and all kinds of stuff. So when I say I've been through the ringer, I've been through the ringer. And that gives me a position to share hope and light that even in the darkest place, you're not alone. It just feels dark because the enemy has gotten a hold of you, but the light is there. And I want you to try this. Whenever you think that you're in a dark place, get in a dark room and light a candle. There is no shadow on that flame, not a single one. So even a little bit is enough to ignite that hope.
I remember, Anna, when you were going through that very much. And I remember how you were feeling in that time. And I remember coming and we were sitting at your parents' house. And even in those moments, Anna, you still had such wonderful like positivity and hope. And you were always just, it's going to get better. It's going to be good. It's okay. You knew your body well. You knew how to rest well. You knew what you needed. You knew like what you didn't need too. And you just really worked that time. I know it didn't feel like it to you, but you had such grace like in everything that you did during that time in that moment. And I just want to I remember you going through that. And I just want to totally give you a shout out for that because you really handled that really well. And I think that just goes to prove how God was really working in your life, just like you were, or in your life, like just what you were saying. You gave it to God and you just really moved forward. There was no shadowing. You really had the light.
It definitely didn't feel that way. And it's great to have people in your life like Lauren and now Amy is in my life that I feel like when I walk through a dark season, I don't have to walk through it alone. Now, I may have to carry it and struggle with it, but I have given Lauren a lot of my burden and she has graciously just carried it. And I'm sure that here in the future, I will do the same thing with Amy. Like, hey, the world is falling apart. So I need 8 minutes. If you have an 8 minute friend, if you don't have an 8 minute friend, you need to get one because Amy and Lauren are my 8 minute friends and they are just absolutely fabulous at it. So, Amy, where did you ever feel like a time in your life? And Lauren, you can answer this too, that you felt that disconnected faith from your body.
I did. My youngest son has autism. And I remember there was a lot of challenges, especially when he first was getting diagnosed. When he was first born, 7 days old, I knew something was wrong. And I knew because I was a mom. And I remember I started really getting disconnected with how I felt with my body, but also with my faith, but then also how I was processing what my son was going through. And I started putting him on the front burner, putting myself on the back burner. And then my faith was being challenged constantly. Honestly, with our son, with his story that I'll get into more through the episodes, autism was a gift because we didn't think he was going to live till he was 9 years old. And I remember that disconnect of feeling wanting to have faith, but also not feeling good about myself, not feeling good about my body, not feeling good about where I was with my son's health, that things started to waver. And that was really challenging for me and then my family. So that was one thing that was really disconnecting me for a while.
Can't imagine going through a big life change like that and then not being able to find yourself. Lauren, do you have an experience with this?
Yeah, I do, and I think it would be probably the time when my dad was really sick. He had cancer, and he was in remission twice. So the third time that it came back, it really came back hard. And he was on some clinical trials and really trying to fight it, but his body was really giving up. He was giving up, and he was tired. He didn't have much quality of life, and he had such a strong faith that he was not scared to stop the clinical trials and just be done. But like for me, I didn't want him to be done. And I couldn't understand why God would like just let him not have more faith and let him, prosper through this. And I think that that was a really confusing time for me, and I definitely think there was a disconnect. Even though I still had faith, I had faith that my dad would be healed and we would be good and he was gonna get through this a third time. The faith that I needed in that moment was God's will, and what my dad had been praying for is totally different than what I had been praying for. And I think that he was just ready for that total restoration that he would get in heaven one day, knowing that's where he was going. And it was really hard. And to watch your parent that you love so much just be at peace with the fact that I'm good. That was really difficult. And so, yeah, there was definitely a disconnect in that moment for me.
Well, we do live in a world that wants proof before trust. So you're very valid in feeling that way and wanting your dad around. I am such a daddy's girl and yeah. So get ready to help me carry that burden when that happens. I hope it's a long time from now, but my heart goes out to you because I know what such a special relationship that you had with your dad and how big he was in your life, and that your representation of your earthly father was a representation of your heavenly father as well. And I think that that's a great gift. So again, in the world that we live in, like it's show me results, give me proof and I'll believe, right? But it has almost nothing to do with the way life works, with the way that our bodies work. Your heart beats, your immune system responds. Your cells communicate without you watching it happen. If you were responsible for you having to breathe and remember to breathe in and breathe out, you would have been gone a long time ago. Every single one of us. That we don't have to think about it is such an amazing thing. And faith works the same way. You don't wait to see the outcome before you step into trust. You move first, you align first, and most change is already working long before it looks like it is. And the same thing with our faith and within our bodies. So, where have you struggled to trust to find what you couldn't see? Where have you struggled to trust what you couldn't see?
I found that to go back to the process when I was talking about my youngest son, I got to a point where I had to forgive before I could trust. And to link this, before my husband and I were married, we were talking and about like what are perfect, visions of life. You talk about, we did pre-Cana and you talk about what's all these things that you think are going to happen. What are your wishes, your goals? You really want to discuss the hard things. And I'll never forget this. He looked at me and he said, I think we're the type of people that could have a child with special needs. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, we're strong. We're strong in our faith. We're strong in each other. I think we're the type of people that could. And I was so taken back at that moment by it. And I was like, well, yeah, we could, but like, let's not go there. But okay, we'll talk about it because we're supposed to talk about things. I'll never forget. I was angry with my husband after we had Dominic because I remember in the moment, I finally peeled it down. And I said, you gave God permission. You gave God permission because you said we were ready and we could handle it. And God was never going to give us anything we couldn't handle. He was only going to give us things that could strengthen us in our relationship. And I had to go through this process of, I was angry with Ed. And this was things he had done way before like Dominic was like even conceived. And I was mad. Like I had to be mad at somebody. But then I trust the process and I trust my faith and I could handle it. And it actually started connecting us back. And Ed and I speak frequently to individuals or other families or other couples. And we're very open and honest that because of our trust in each other and the process that we did in bringing our faith strong in our family, that we wouldn't still be together if it wasn't for Dominic, but then in our faith, because it walked hand in hand together. And now we've been married 22 years, and our last 5 years of marriage have been the best years that we've been married. And that's when we put a lot of that and really built on it and believed and put things in the right alignment. So trusting that process and trusting that plan. And that was something that's actually very much grounded us to where we needed to be.
I love that God has a sense of humor.
So true. I mean, if you think about it and we look back, he does have a sense of humor and brings that and reminds me of that often.
Did you ever ask your husband, like, what made you like think that? Or do you think like that was just something that maybe, God was working kind of behind the scenes to kind of just, give you a little bit of a sprinkle of what something could be happening? Like it was almost like what kind of set your faith and, you know, get it moving forward because there was going to be this big new adventure ahead of you?
We've talked about it. He was actually supposed to be born with Down syndrome. Like the doctor said that my husband was going to be born with Down syndrome. My mother-in-law had struggled to conceive for a long time. So he was definitely a miracle baby, right? And then they came in and said, I'm sorry to tell you, but we feel your son's going to be born with Down syndrome. She's like, I don't care. Now, this was 46 years ago. That's much different than now how we have things. So that she was very, forward on things. And I'm super proud of her for that. And then he ended up not having it. And I think what really was conversations like that about, what happens of this. And we had gone through it. And that was what he talked about. And he said, so what do you think? And I'll be honest, it like really took me back at the moment, but I think that's where it really grounded and rooted from.
That's so interesting to me. So, when I was in high school, I actually had driver's ed with my husband now. We actually were not friends in high school. He was a couple years older than me, but we were both in the same driver's education class. And I remember him in that driver's ed class, and we didn't sit very close to each other or anything like that. But on one of the last days of the class, my husband's a class clown. He's silly. He's animated. One of the reasons that I've been so drawn to him, because I tend to be a little serious, and he brings out the fun in me. He said to me as we were leaving and walking out one night, I'm going to marry a girl like you one day. And I just laughed because I'm like, I would never marry you. Like, I was like, his friends were different from my friends. We had different interests. So all these years go by, almost like 15, 20 years. And I met his mom in the salons. She was getting her hair done by another hairstylist, and we started talking. And she told me about her son, and I said, "Who is your son?" And she said, "Peyton Fauché." And I said, I had driver's education with him." And she's like, "Oh, really?" So she, from that moment, had worked so hard to get us together. And do you know, here we are, like we've been married now like 7 years, been together 10 years. And that is something like I would never have seen back in the day. And for him to even say something like that to me, I was like, that is like, who says stuff like that in high school, anyways? I mean, he's a boy. Like, boys don't say stuff like that. And he was just being goofy and silly. And we talk about it sometimes. And he says he remembers like some of the outfits that I was wearing. I was like, well, you were really studying me. But like, I would never, like, I couldn't even picture myself being married at one particular time in my life, you know? And now here I am. I am married, and I'm married to this man that I had driver's education with. And it's just weird, like that one little phrase, like it never left me. As soon as we started dating and then we started talking about a future together, it was like, wow, this is really all coming in a perspective. But I would never have thought that all those years ago. So it is interesting that Ed made that not the same comment, but like made a comment kind of about your future and
Well,
you
he
didn't
did.
even realize it.
He actually did almost similar, which is so funny that you shared that story. So we met in college in an elevator, which is hilarious. Like, you see things like, "Where'd you meet your husband?" Well, I'm like, on an elevator. And we lived in the same dorm. And I did not like him. I played volleyball. He played football in college. He was like one I will never forget that I was like, he just thinks he's like all that. And I was so annoyed by it. Our sophomore year, because he kept asking me to date him. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to date you. Because he had been dating one of my teammates. And I'm like, no, I'm loyal. I'm not going to do that. Nope, nope, nope. Anyways, sophomore year, he told somebody, we were not dating, never went on a date, said, I'm going to marry her someday. And he did. And I'm like, so I guess our guys do know, even when they say they don't. So that's a funny story that yours is much better. Like the 5 years, that's impressive.
It was. So, I mean, it just goes to show like, and here's the crazy part is I grew up. So his brother sold me my first car. And then his brother also married somebody that I grew up with. Like she was in my neighborhood. So it was like I already knew the whole family. I knew my sister-in-law's family. I knew his family. His brother sold me my first car. Everything all came together. And it was just like we just came from different backgrounds, different friends, different hobbies, different interests. But like the main things were so similar. And he brought out so many things in me that I needed someone to bring out in me. And hopefully I bring out good in him too. But like, it's crazy. Like we don't realize that sometimes we can't see our future, obviously. And so sometimes it's hard and we struggle in that trust. And, there's times where, if Peyton and I are struggling even, I mean, because let's be real, we're married and we all go through little things. I always go back to that because I'm like, you know what, this is who God put in my life. And he put him in my life back when I was in like a sophomore in high school. So like here we are all these years later and I'm like this is right. This is the way it was supposed to be. I just have to sometimes, you just remind yourself that.
So, how do those experiences from how God is already working in your life, how does that mirror in your faith journey now?
I think for me, it's just like that was evidence, right? Like when you trust and you just surrender and you follow and you let God lead you, it's just evidence that he is working on your behalf. And the more you follow and the more you trust and the more you have little moments like this, it's easier to allow him to take care of you and to let him lead your life and help you in your next decisions and help you move forward in whatever it is that you are looking to move forward in. And for me, it's just a great reminder that God knows more than I do. And I just need to trust. I just need to trust the process and I just need to listen and I just need to like let him do his thing. And I need to get out of my own way sometimes.
Anna, how did you, when you were going through processing, especially right when you were figuring out your illness and going through things, how did you trust that process and know that God had a plan for you? Walk me through that.
With lots of struggle, with lots of, "I don't want this, you take this. No, I'll pick it back up because you asked me to. No, I don't want it anymore, you pick it back up." It was a daily thing, and I did start early on and with the intention that I have this, it doesn't have me. Like, this is not my identity, this is just part of my journey, and there are so my husband has never known me at 100%. He's never known the Anna Kate that could burn candles at both ends, do all the things, run herself ragged, work a full-time job, go to the gym, work out, do the house things, like all of that. He doesn't know that person. That person doesn't exist for him. So I think that what I struggle with now is that I can't do all the things that I want to in the way that I want them to. So I am a prisoner kind of my own circumstances. And last time we recorded, I showed you my hands at the end of this hand was twice the size of this hand and my knees, and I will start walking funny. So when we're together again and after a couple of days, it will tell on my body. And it is so frustrating. It is frustrating and heartbreaking. And I don't want to live that way. I don't want to feel the way that I feel a lot of times. But I do know that it's just temporary. Getting rest, doing the things that I need to do, saying no as much as I'm saying yes are both, equivalent things. And, I love coaching because I can make my own schedule and I love doing what we do. And I love working on this project with y'all because I can shift it around. Like tomorrow will be a down day for me. I will take rest where I need it because my body will demand it. And I can go so far that my body shuts down and is like, okay, you asked too much of me and now I'm not going to do anything. And I don't want to live in that place either. It's a daily struggle because I want to be so much more. And I say this all the time. It's my new mantra. I think I came up with it last year working with Lauren is I have limitations, but I'm not limited. I have to work within what my body can do and I have to honor that. And when I do, I get to do far much more of life in a week than if I go do all the things for 2 days and then can't do anything for 3 days. So I find the balance. So it's a daily thing.
And I just want to say that I am so proud of you for, everything that you have moved through. I mean, I can't imagine how hard it is to try to do an everyday life, and just feel bad or feel hurt or feel tired or have swollen hands and things like that. Really and truly, you do all this stuff with such grace. Even, a year ago, or not a year ago, like last year, which was really just like 5 months ago, maybe we were all in Dallas and we were hanging out in Dallas. And I remember we were having fun one night and we were all dressed up. And I know your feet were killing you. You were hurting and you were like, it's fine. I'm good. And, like we found you a place to sit. And I mean, you did. You left a little early, but like you knew what you needed to do for you to be good. And I think that is one of the most fascinating things about the human body is that it is always listening. And you are really good at like listening to your body, and your body is also listening to you. And it's not just for like food or movement, it's like for information, right? And so I think one of those things that it listens out for too is like peptides. We're here to talk about peptides as well, prayer and peptides. And peptides are messengers and they don't force cells to act, they actually communicate. And so they like give these little messages like you're safe or stay alert or your body needs some rest. And then as it gets these messages, our body responds. And so, like, here's the thing. The body adapts to the signals it receives most often, right? So if you're under stress, peptide sends a message to help you relax and feel safe. If you're trying to stay alert, there's a peptide that will help you be focused. The more consistent you are to training your body and how to adapt to these things, the easier it is for your body to heal. And so I don't think that our body is ever really betraying us. I think that it's just simply responding the best way it can in that particular moment. And I think when we really understand this, like the way that you understand it, Anna, like especially knowing your body, you don't have this shame. You're not walking around with shame. You're not walking around with guilt. You don't have this sorrow. You just understand that this is what it is in this particular moment and it's going to be better later. You just got to give your body what it needs so you can respond and your body can respond the best way possible for you. And so I think that's really awesome that you do understand that about your body. You're very in tune with yourself. And so I think that all of us can have this peace and the fact that we are not broken. We might just be a little bit off the path a little bit, but we're not broken. And it's just so much easier to take accountability and be a little bit more disciplined in our actions when we can accept that, right? And so when we can accept that and when we can take the accountability, then I think we really truly can heal. And I think we can accept healing, not just heal for ourselves, but accept the healing that God has for us and through Him. And so here's a question that I have. Where might your body be adapting rather than failing? So if you are like struggling, do you view it as failing or are you adapting? And how are you adapting?
I can start off on this one. You can tell on my voice right now. I have Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune with my thyroid. And I'm similar to Anna. When my body is done, my body's done. And I have been going through some emotional things and some stressors over the past week that I pushed myself too hard. And at times I relate that to failing. I think if I can't get everything done, or as a mom, or I work a full-time job, or if I can't get to something, I'm letting others down, but I'm also letting myself down because then I get to myself where this past weekend, I had to listen to my body and say, I'm still going to do the work, but I'm going to shelter in place, meaning I'm not going out of my house for 2 days. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to do work that I need to, but I'm going to do that in my comfy clothes and wear a messy bun in my hair and be okay with it. That's something too where my husband has done really good of recognizing signs for me. And I was so proud of Anna to hear how she talks about like, I'll give myself permission, because it really is giving yourself permission to take the day off, and not really take the day off, but to give yourself rest where needed. And my husband, Ed, has done a really good job to recognize on like one day on the weekend, I may not like be able to be moving and grooving the way I want to. And that may be, and he's like, will even bring me one morning breakfast in bed because he's like, I need my coffee, I need my breakfast, and I'm just going to sit there and everybody in the world is going to be happier. So I think listening to my body and then listening to when I need my faith, I have that pull, but I also had to give myself permission to like this past weekend, I was having this guilt that we didn't go to church. I was drawn, I wanted to go, but I knew in my heart of heart that I was not at a place that I would be receiving it well, and I would have been like not present. And so I gave my permission to say, you know what, I can go next week. And that doesn't mean that God's going to be mad at me. I didn't fail him. I didn't do anything. Amy, a few years ago, would have beat herself up over that, where I gave my permission that this is okay and this is my journey. And I don't have to be in a brick and mortar to celebrate my faith. Like, I don't have to be there in that moment. And that's very different than the way I was brought up on things like that. So that was something that I've done so I don't feel like I'm failing.
Yeah, there's the mindset. And I think that this is one of the things that has been a consistent thing for me since 2012 is the mindset of like, this too shall pass. Like, I don't have to carry this alone. Like, I do give myself permission to take a nap. And it took me a long time not to feel guilty about that because I am a professional napper. When I was a little kid, like 4 or 5, I would ask my mom, "Hey mom, can I go take a nap?" And my mom's like, yes, sure, go ahead." So I love to nap. I love to rest. I've loved it my entire life. But as an adult, I had things to do. And I would wake up from a nap with anxiety attack because I feel like I should be doing something else. But the thing that I needed to be doing was resting so that I can do the thing that I need to do much better. So I get now today I pushed myself. I worked a little bit more than I needed to get ready for recording all of this. But I have about 4 good hours in a day before I need to take a break or do something else. I've also realized that I want a house cleaner. I want someone to do because it drains me. And then I can't do anything for 2 days because I cleaned my house. Like I don't want to do that. So I want to get to a place where I can invest in someone else, invest in their business and where they can help me out and everybody feels, like Amy getting breakfast in bed. Everybody's just better for the day, right? Everything is just better. So I think it really does come into that mindset of this is not a failure. This is just the reality of where it is. And if I could change it, I would. I can't. And so there's no use in putting energy into fighting something. So I just need to pivot and adapt and do the things that I want to. I was a bikini competitor and now my body cannot pick up anything heavy. I mean, it can't, but I don't have hand strength. I don't have the grip strength. I don't and then my muscles fatigue really quickly with all the fun things that I have. So, okay, do I get mad about that? Or do I figure out a way to work out that still gets those endorphins going and still gets me moving and feeling good about myself and improving my body in the way that I can right now and honoring that?
Anna, I have a question for you. Lauren brought up about peptides and really how that can work with your body. And then you're talking about your muscle and you're talking about what you're going through with your autoimmune and other things. Can you talk about how you've weaved peptides into that process and life and all the things?
Yeah, it's a daily thing for me. It helps take the edge off and helps me recover when I do work out, when I do have the bandwidth to. And that is super important because I want to get all the spoons and bandwidth that I can get. So that has really been a game changer to do that on the daily. And I notice now because been doing it so long and so consistently that if I miss a day, it's like, what is happening? Like, what is wrong with me? I didn't drink that today. So I make sure that I do. I have them with me all over the place. I was actually talking to a friend of mine that he does all kinds of like BMX stuff and mountain biking and all kinds of stuff. And he was the same way. He was like, I missed it the other day and I wanted to I was wondering where it is. And it's not even something that you stick in your arm. But he was like, I was jonesing for it. So, and I kind of feel the same way about that. And it does make such a difference in the consistency that I get more spoons and I will take more spoons any day of the week. And it's easy and it's something that I can do even when my jaw is tight and everything and when I travel and it just yeah, it's a daily thing for me of maintaining that inflammation and supporting that recovery. And because it's so important that I can't work out, that I have to preserve my muscle any way that I can, that it's been such a godsend. And I haven't lost any muscle in the last year, which has been fantastic.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think peptides are so helpful in areas like this. And I know for like myself, I am very similar to what both of you ladies have said. It's hard for me to relax sometimes. I work all day long and I'm in a hair salon. And so I have lots of different clients, which means lots of different conversations to keep up with. And I'm standing behind a chair all day and I'm moving my hands and my shoulders and I'm blow drying. And it puts a lot of pressure on my body and my physical and health. And then your mental health, you're just kind of like hearing all these things all day long, people's opinions and what they think. And, sometimes if you're not grounded well, it can like kind of mess up like what you think and how you feel. It can emotionally wear you down because sometimes you hear things from your clients and you worry about them throughout the day. And so I do think that peptides are one of those things that have become so helpful even in my life too. But like what Amy was saying, like in you as well, like giving yourself permission. This past weekend I did the same thing. I just laid around. I found a new show on Netflix and I sat there and I binge watched it all day long. And it was great. My body needed that. I was able to shut down and I was able to reset and give my body exactly what it needed. I was able to use one of our peptides to help me calm down some. And so it was really helpful.
Yeah, it's so nice to be able to support kind of whatever season that you're in and whatever you're feeling like your body needs. And That's what's so incredible about having these as an option too, is that you can be consistent and it does more and more things because it unlocks what I call a cascade. So when we are making sure that we're eating our protein. Well, I want that protein to go into the muscle and I want it to do the things that it's designed to do and make sure that it gets there. So it amplifies whatever else we're doing and all these healthy choices of, we're at the stage in life where eating better or eating less or working out or doing more are not the options anymore because that's how we live our life. And there just needed to be one extra little key thing. And this has been that key.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Knowing that you've been able to adapt and you've been able to listen to your body some, how has this changed how you speak to yourself? Like for me, I know when I allow myself the permission to rest, I I'm able to speak more positive into my life because I'm like, you know what, Lauren, you've worked really hard. You deserve this. You need this. It's okay. Like, what are some things that you say to yourself that gives you that permission, or how do you change? How do you self-talk?
So for me, I really have been learning about my self talk because I am probably a perfectionist. I am my biggest critic. I'm nasty to myself at times, and I'm also an overthinker. So I've learned where taking a pause is huge for me, like taking a step back. But I've also learned through time that I have to allow myself to sometimes get things out. So if I'm upset, I need to verbally say them. If I've pushed them down too much, it's not going to be healthy. And those are some things that I've really had to learn to do, but also to be a voice. I'm somebody that does not do well when I beat myself up too hard. I completely shut down. I shut down to those around me. I shut down in my faith. I shut down. Like I completely shut down. So that's one thing that I've learned I've had to do.
Yeah, it's a daily practice to flex the muscle to be kind. And I think we're all that way on some level, on some degree, that we are, kind of all of our worst critic. And, so one of the things that when I really get into one of those dark spirals, I will write a letter to myself as a friend. And my friend would never say those things about me. I'm never going to talk about Amy the way Amy talks about herself because I love Amy. Amy is absolutely freaking fantastic. Right? So I'm never going to say anything. And I'm also going to, if she is out of character and out of sorts from how I know Amy, I'm going to ask Amy. I feel confident enough that I can pull her aside and be like, hey, what's going on? Right? Because I'm a verbal processor too. Poor Lauren. Oh my gosh. She has helped me verbal process, but she's talked me off a ledge a lot of times and helped me make not rash decisions because she's like, okay, well, let's talk about that. And we go through all the scenarios, and she has been gracious enough to do that. So I'm very thankful for that. So a verbal processor to a verbal processor. Yeah, I'm here for you to listen and process, and we'll talk about it 1,000 times. And then it'll make sense and we'll come to a resolution. But it is one of those things that I think that we can all do better at flexing our muscle. And I think through a lot of things that you're going to come into contact with through prayer and peptides will give you an opportunity to flex that muscle, to take yourself out of it and put yourself in a place that, God walks into the room before you do. Nothing is a surprise to him. Like, look, 2 years ago, I didn't know Amy. Lauren didn't know Amy. Like 2 years ago, the thing that exists now that brought us together did not exist at all. It was like a thought in somebody's head somewhere in the back 40. Like it was not a thing. So when I tell you, God can do amazing, wonderful things, and He's already got amazing things planned. You just have to be obedient, and beating ourselves up is not quite the way to get there. Sometimes we got to go around our hand to get to our thumb, kind of a thing. But I think that is the way to move forward is to, okay, I feel like I've fallen short. What's my next step? How do I get through this? A lamp into our feet. What is the next thing that I need to do? What is the one thing?
I think it is easy to like beat ourselves up, right? And say and be harsh on us and say horrible things. And we put a lot of pressure on us that nobody else seems to put pressure on us for. And I can share that with you guys. I definitely know that feeling. But I just think that both of you ladies are incredible. And the first time I met you, Amy, like the very, very first time was a year ago. And you walked up to me, you're like, oh, here's a gift. Pick whatever you want. And it was like these amazing gifts. Like I talk about this all the time. There was a Lululemon purse as a gift, and it was like the cutest little pink bag. And you're like, here you go. And I'm like, are you serious? This is a Lululemon bag. And it was like, you didn't even know who I was. And it was the sweetest and it was the nicest and the kindest thing. And like your personality from that moment on has just shown over and over and over. And you've just been so consistent in that. And so the moments that we think the worst of ourselves, I think it's just the pressure we put on ourselves. And it's just like the things that we say to ourselves, but like, man, you're a great person. And Anna, you're amazing. And I love the fact that the three of us are here today and we're just able to sit down and really just talk about life and talk about like our faith and talk about our health and how it all corresponds together. And gosh, like a year ago, I would never have imagined that this is where we would be today.
Amy, you have set the generosity and compassion and encouragement bar so high that I hope that you will start talking to yourself like you talk to us, because it fills our cup so many times. Every time Amy introduces me to somebody, it's, let me tell you about Anna, like all the things. Like you need to know this person because y'all will like solve this world problem. So y'all get after it and do it. And we do. And it's fantastic, the people that she's introduced me to. So I want you to hold yourself to that high standard as well, of that you talk to yourself and edify yourself in the way that you do everyone else, because you actually deserve it. And that is, you walk the walk. So now you got to talk the talk to yourself.
That's the goal. That is the goal. And Lauren, you gave me some really good, sweet compliments. And my husband was talking to me about this last night. And he said this. He said, Amy, people can say kind things about you, and you hear one negative and you forget about all the 10 other. Because I was talking to him about, I had some things that were said that go on my CD-ROM. Like, it plays in my head and it plays it over and over and over. And I'm like, is that true? Is that, and I know that was not ever an intent, or that's never how that was supposed to process. But for some reason, I find myself self-evaluating. I self-evaluate so much and think through it. But it's and I tell him, I said, I wish I could be like you, where I don't allow one-offs or things to be said or things that I've perceived as hurtful to stick so much. But for me, they do. And it takes so many other positive interactions to wipe out that one. And I think that's something that I remember about with people and how I talk. And I think about that with like children that I'm around and things like that. So thank you for filling my bucket. That is very sweet. That is something that I need to work on receiving. So I appreciate that.
Well, it is being recorded, so you can go and listen to this, fill your bucket anytime you want to. So we'll put it on a replay. Lauren has been such an encouragement to everyone. It reflects in her business how she cares about people. And I'm hoping that one of the things that y'all take away from spending time with us and engaging with us is that we're just over here living life, pushing the buttons, doing the thing. Like, we pray daily, we work on our faith. It's not perfect, far from perfect, but we do it every day because we live in grace and mercy. And that's, thank God for that. And then we also are consistent in taking our peptides. And that has been a reflection of exactly what needs to happen on a daily, consistent basis. And when your consistency shows, your life can't not be an advertisement for it. It can't not be like, what makes you different? Like, what are you doing? Like what about them is so different, right?
I think it's our signals, but I think it's also our relationships that we have with people. Like both of you ladies make me a better person. And, the Bible says, iron sharpens iron, right? I don't know where it says that in the Bible, but I know it says that. And I think it's the same with like with our friendships. You are who you hang out with. There was a quote like, give me the ten people you hang out with and I can tell you your future. Stuff like that. And I think that, being around people that you really love and admire and you respect, it also helps your character to be more like those people. And if those people are close to God and they're mocking Christ-like characters, like that's just even like you're just going to pick up on that even more.
This video is brought to you by you. Seriously. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and dropping those thoughtful comments. Every single one of them helps spread the mission. If you're loving what you're hearing, come hang out with us on Instagram. That's where we take each episode further with weekly actions, deep questions, and behind-the-scenes action. So if you're ready to turn insight into transformation, join the conversation at Prayer N Peptides. Now, back to the episode. If bodies are shaped by repeated signals, then relationships are shaped by repeated interactions. Prayer isn't just something we say, it's something we practice being in. Romans 12 talks about offering our bodies, not as punishment, but as participation. In any relationship, responsibility goes both ways. We've recognized that. We've shared that. God is present, guiding, and inviting. Even Jesus never treated the body as a problem to overcome. Healing was relational, and also mechanical. Prayer isn't performance, it's presence, it's listening, and it's returning. And that's why prayer often brings peace, because safety restores the system. When I think about this, I think about my journey and how things have been prepared in my life and my connection and how I had to listen and return. It also reminds me of like how I took in peace and felt more comfortable. Like comfortable in my relationships, not only with the people around me, but also my relationship with my faith. And I guess when I think about this, I think about these questions that come to mind. Like, for example, how has prayer been framed for you? Has it been more like a performance or more a relationship? That's something that I find I question at time. But also, Lauren, talk to me about how you've connected with that.
Yeah, I think that, I think back and like as a child, right? I think prayer was maybe more of a performance because you're learning. You're learning how to pray. You're being told what to do. I was raised in a Catholic family where we were taught prayers, specific prayers, and we would say them over. We would pray something called the rosary. To me, I mean, I know that that is not performance, but as a child, you're learning those things and you are performing these acts. And it's helping you to believe. It's helping show you, it's modeling what faith, should look like. And when you're in a position and you don't know what to do, you go to God or you pray about it. And it created a foundation for me. But now that I'm more of an adult, I feel like my relationship has matured with God. And so I don't feel like it's as much of a performance as it is a relationship. It is a constant conversation that I have with God all day long. If I have a client in my chair at the salon and they're going through something, I really want to listen. I want to be that listener. But sometimes I really have to be in the moment and prayerfully willing to be able to say something if God wants me to say it. But I have to be in a conversation in my head with God during that moment so that I know, okay, this is what I should be doing right now. This is what I should say. This is how I should comfort this person. Or maybe I don't say anything at all and I just listen. But I don't know those things unless I have those conversations with God and I'm in constant prayer with God. And so I think now, before any decisions, before I take on extra projects, I have this prayer and this conversation, and I'm constantly listening. Like, is this good for me? Is this what I need to be doing? Is this what's going to push me forward? Is this where you want me to go? Is this your will for my life? And listening to those things help me to move forward. So it's not really a performance anymore as much as it is a relationship to me now. It's a conversation, listening and talking and asking and send me signs and let me know, back and forth conversation all the time.
So it's more of a natural flow. I also was raised Catholic, so I feel that about one, it gave me the structure, but I feel like in my adulthood, it's given me freedom to kind of explore. Has there been times for you like where you have had to surrender or brought unexpected peace for you, or Lauren, either of you feel that way where you've had to surrender it and just be, and when you do, you feel that calm or that peace or that understanding?
I know for me that surrendering to God has given me a lot of unexpected peace. I think that sometimes when you know that God's got you, you just feel good. It just gives you peace. Like it doesn't matter like how much you can do in your own willpower. Sometimes your own willpower is not what you need to do. You just need to like relax and just trust. I know we're talking about Romans, but there is a scripture in Romans specifically that says that God works all things together for the good who believe in him. And truly believe that. Like when I put God first and main in my life and I listen to what he's saying and I'm praying to him, it doesn't matter what I'm going through in that moment. If I surrender these decisions, if I surrender these major moments in my life to him, then I know that he's going to work things out perfectly for his plan and everything's going to be just fine. And sometimes it's just figuring out myself, getting myself out of the way so that I can just move forward. And I know the outcome's going to be good and I know it's going to be perfect.
And I think that trust and allowing ourselves to surrender can be a challenge at times. How have you adapted with that?
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. I mean, going back to the story I was saying earlier about my dad, really having to trust in that moment was really tough because you don't know what your future holds. And the idea of moving forward and not having my dad a part of my life, he was always like I was a daddy's girl. He was always a sounding board to me. If I needed help, if I had something going on in life, I could go back to him and, he would give me answers and he would guide me and he would help me. And God has very much does that for me. But my dad was my earthly dad. And so he was somebody that I could go to for a lot of these different things. And not having him and thinking about what the future holds without him was really scary.
I think it can be scary. And excuse my voice. Through that fear, we can also get stronger. And, with my faith, it got stronger when I was scared. And I think there's times where when you're scared, you have to surrender and be closer to God. And that's been so important to me. There was a time I can relate to, and this one might choke me up actually, but it was Christmas Eve or the day before Christmas. And we had been waiting for these test results for Dominic. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Hunter's and Hurler's disease.
I have not.
So I don't remember a lot about it because I've forgotten a lot about it because on purpose. But basically, your body hardens over time. And I'm sorry if I'm saying this wrong because I didn't research it long after, but stuff with your body and your joints and very traumatic what happens. Okay. So and I don't want to speak wrong on it I don't want to be disrespectful to somebody that knows much more than me. But Dominic was getting tested for this. And we got the results the day before Christmas Eve. He was an infant. And my in-laws were in town. And I remember I was standing at the time, and they came back positive. And I remember collapsing down to the ground and leaning up against the bed. I just cried. And I was like, wait, what? The life expectancy is not great. I had not prepared myself for that call. But then, like, my husband and I had talked about very quickly that we weren't going to share with anybody else what was going on because we didn't want to ruin Christmas. And I remember being so scared in that moment and having like to just lean in. And I just leaned into God. Now, I walked through that weekend in like days, but I don't think that I could have gotten through it without knowing, trusting, and that fear was like strengthening because I kept repeating in my head, God, please, please just give me the answers. God, help me. I'm so scared. And that was a time where fear really strengthened me in the moment.
Man, that must have been really hard to hear that. And I can't imagine like going through Christmas and it's supposed to be like a joyful time and everyone's excited and you just have this in the back of your mind, like thinking about this and this worry and what are we going to do? And that is really tough. I do like that you said that when you felt weak, you knew that you were strong, or you said something about being weak and being strong, because when we are weak, when we feel like, oh my gosh, what is happening right now? we do get our strength from God because we're able to lean on Him, and He does help give us the strength. And He, like, putting it back, I don't want to say putting it back on Him, but kind of, yeah, like we give it to Him, we surrender Him to this moment to Him, and He is able to like pull us aside and help us move and, go forward in all of this. And I bet that's exactly what you did in that moment is you just, surrendered all of that and the best that you can, knowing your personality. You really probably rocked out that Christmas and you probably had a great time, and, just nobody probably even thought twice about it, but that had to be really hard.
I think for us, and I think for you also, what we really just acknowledge is that in our faith and what we do, we have to really just live on timelines and understand and let go of things that we can't control. And that's something that was huge for me. We want timelines, especially after disappointment, but control tightens the system. Healing doesn't happen on demand. It happens in safety and patience, to believe it or not, and in support. You don't need to force results, I've learned, and you don't need to stay aligned long enough for them to emerge. And so that's one thing that I've really just been able to know about rushing the process. And I really, truly just believe, like everything we've shared today, that timelines sometimes get thrown out the window and sometimes they have a purpose. And our faith really takes us through that. And I think so much happens with what we do and really encourage us on how we live our life, what our weekly practices look like, what we move towards.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think that this week in this podcast episode, it's not really about changing everything, right? We're not talking about like making all these great big changes. We're just talking about like noticing, like what are the little things that we can notice? Sometimes it's not about fixing anything. I mean, tonight we didn't really talk about fixing anything. We just talked about surrender. We talked about noticing. We talked about giving ourselves permission and observing. And so as we like come back and wrap up and we finish this up talking a little bit about peptides, what are some of the things that we notice in our body? How are we listening to our body? Are we feeling more hungry? Are we feeling tension? Are we feeling exhausted all the time? Do we have restlessness? And let what you notice become prayer, like whatever is going on in your body, very much like what Anna Kate was saying earlier about just this chronic pain that she feels. Amy, like you were talking about Hashimoto's, and your body, you're listening to your body. Let these moments become a prayer and give it to God, and don't put a lot of pressure on yourself, and let it not be like a big performance, just a simple prayer. And if you miss a day, I mean, nothing breaks, we can just, it's okay. We just move on to the next day because our relationship with God is resilient. And, we can go to God. He's waiting for us all the time. He's already listening to us when we're not even talking to Him yet. So I think that if there's anything that we could take away from today, Prayer and Peptides, it's this, that we don't have to fix anything. We're not broken. We are just trying to figure out where we are, and we're giving it to God, and we're asking God to lead us. And there are things that can help us if we are listening, and there are tools and there's resources that He gives us, and there's people that He puts into our life. And all these things can come together and can really help us move forward so that we get the results that we really want.
If something in today's conversation stirred you, send it to the person who came to mind. That's how this message moves, person to person, and we can't do it without you. If you want to stay connected, go ahead and subscribe, like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. All the resources and goodies are linked in the show notes, and we'd love to continue the conversation with you over on Instagram. Until next time, stay prayerful, stay curious, and keep listening to the signals.
The content shared on Prayer N Peptides podcast is for educational, informational, and inspirational purposes only. This podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease, nor is it a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Discussions around peptides, nervous system regulation, stress, sleep, hydration, and wellness are presented as general educational concepts and reflections on the body's design, not as medical recommendations. Always seek the advice of your physician, a licensed healthcare provider, or qualified medical professional regarding any medical condition, symptoms, medication, supplements, or health discussions. Never disregard or delay seeking professional medical advice because of something you heard on this podcast. The host and guests of Prayer N Peptides are not acting as medical providers. Any personal experiences or stories shared are anecdotal and not intended to imply guaranteed outcomes. Spiritual reflections, prayer, and scripture-informed insights are offered as relational and supportive practices, not as replacements for medical or mental health care. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you are responsible for your own health decisions and that Prayer N Peptides assumes no liability for actions taken based on the information presented.